Abortion has been the big issue of the week as a result of the US Supreme Court's move to remove federal protections for the practice. It's also ignited a fierce debate here and put pro-life National Party leader Christopher Luxon in a difficult spot. NBR's Dita Boni has written about Luxon's dilemma in this week's Flipside column. Tell us more.
Well, Christopher Luxon, we all know he is a man of faith. He's a Christian. He does not really agree with abortion, but he's had to come out and very strongly defend the idea that he's not going to change abortion laws in the wake of this Supreme Court ruling in the US. And it's kind of made people wonder. I mean, he's got a lot of politicians around him who are also very pro-life. Will he stay true to what he says? You know, he is a politician after all. So I think women are quite sceptical and a bit nervous about someone like that with strong pro-life views or anti-abortion views becoming Prime Minister potentially.
Some people would say that the same issues don't apply here with a different political and court system, but you disagree?
I think that the pro-life so-called movement is actually very well funded. It's global in its scope. It uses the same tactics wherever it has operated, both in the US and New Zealand, for example, standing outside of abortion clinics, harassing providers, setting up helplines that are actually fronts for pro-pregnancy views, disseminating misinformation about abortion. So all these tactics are used across the world wherever abortion is legal, because obviously if you can't change what's happening in the clinic, you can change what's happening outside. So I think actually there's more coordination than we probably imagine around these things.
And as you mentioned before, a number of national MPs have spoken out against this practice, including their leader. Why is this a dangerous line for them to toe in terms of trying to get votes?
I would say, judging from the reaction that we've seen and the fact that Christopher Luxon's had to come out and quickly front foot this issue suggests that women in large numbers will not vote him in if he is seen to be open to changing abortion laws. I mean, it is what I would call kryptonite for the National Party, in the same way the capital gains tax is kryptonite for the Labour Party, even though Labour's Jacinda Ardern probably would like to implement a capital gains tax. She realises it's just a step too far in terms of being re-elected, and I would argue that abortion is the same issue for National.
Christopher Luxon was actually seen as a progressive leader at Air New Zealand. How important is it for him to keep that image up in terms of winning votes?
Well, that's a good question, actually, and I don't think I have got the answer to that. But I mean, he was a very progressive CEO of Air New Zealand. Air New Zealand took part in all sorts of diversity initiatives. It's still sort of on the vanguard of those kind of things because of his leadership. He acknowledged climate change. He did all these kind of things. Now he's in a position where he wants to be a centre. He wants to appeal to the centre, but there's a strong sort of extreme right-wing side of National, as you can see with those politicians speaking out about abortion. And whether he will be pulled in that direction to differentiate himself from Labour, or whether he will stay with his centrist path, that remains to be seen. But I think there is a risk that he could be pulled off track. I mean, already he's using words like woke and things that suggests he's listening to the right wing of his party. And I think that makes his proposition a bit risky.
And why do you see abortion as a business issue? Why should New Zealand businesses care about this?
I guess you're right that they don't have to specifically care. I mean, in the States, they do have to care. They're expected to come out and state their view on abortion, ideally pro-abortion or pro-access to abortion, I should say, and they're having to put their money where their mouths are and offer to pay their employees to take them out of state and so forth. New Zealand, we don't have to, but we do take our cues about the employee experience from America. We take our cues about ESG commitments. Where they go, corporations around the world follow, and I think New Zealand companies will have to look at what they offer for health in the terms of healthcare, how they can expand their benefits, what Generation Z want from an employer, which is much more than what generations before Gen Z wanted. So all these things are instructive to New Zealand, even though the abortion issue itself is a little less volatile here.
Dita, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.